Well, welcome to fall in the California Native Plant Garden. This is Carl with Blossom Hill California Native Plants, and this is our fall video. We're going to combine the last months of the year into one video. There are some things going on. Some things are shutting down after summer. Some things are waking up with cooler temperatures and more available moisture. So let's get started. As you can see, this is a nice shot early in mid-October. In the front is Salvia spathicea, hummingbird sage. Got a nice bloom going on it. Salvia spathicea, like many plants, will start to respond this time of year. We haven't changed the watering schedule or amount. It's still every 2 weeks. But because of the shorter days, cooler temperatures, there's more available moisture, and you can see this is starting to respond, and it's got a nice flower stalk, and there'll be more to come. Back on the left is Salvia pachyphylla, rose sage. That's still blooming. That blooms with moisture. Behind that is Zalcenaria californica mexicana, and that is a summer and fall bloomer, and will continue to grow as long as it has moisture. And we'll take another look at that, a closer look, a little bit later. Maybe you can see on the right side, well, there's Santa Cruz Island buckwheat. You can see the old flower stalks. They still look kind of pretty. That's a nice bush. You can see the larger penstemon, the new green growth, and that's in response to added moisture and cooler temperatures. So even though it's the beginning of winter, we're starting to see look at spring, cooler temperatures, and a little bit better growing conditions for many of the plants. So let's get started. We'll take a look at the blooming plants. Many of the others are not, and so we'll skip over those as they're less interesting. If you're planning landscaping, it's nice to see what blooms this time of year and what blooms with moisture this time of year. As promised, this is Zalcenaria californica mexicana, a California fuchsia. Nice California fuchsia, nice summer bloomer. We've looked at it before, but this is what it looks like in mid-October. A nice display. Hummingbirds like it. It's one of the plants blooming this time of year, and hummingbirds need the help this time of year. Here's Salvia pachyphylla, a little bit closer look at that. Rose sage, a nice sage, nice color. Here's another look at Mattole River fuchsia, Zalcenaria septentrionalis. This one gets garden water and does really well under those circumstances. Unfortunately, we missed 3 hummingbirds that were on it this time of year, and is a good one for hummingbirds this time of year. We've looked at this before, but it's very spectacular, and wanted to take another look at this in October. Maybe you can see the bees on it. Bees like it as a pollinator also this time of year. So in the center of the shot here is Enceli actini. We've looked at that before. Here again, it has a little moisture and blooms. In the back, Ray Hartman. On the right hand side, Ceanothus rigidus, snowball. I just point some of these out while we're here. There's deergrass in back, Apache plume, Phlogia paradoxa, and quick look at some of these plants. Here's a nice shot. Again, Enceli actini in the upper right. In the middle is dwarf coyote bush, Baccharis pilularis, And this is really a nice surprise this time of year. It is in full bloom. And the blooms aren't very spectacular, but nonetheless, it gives some interest in the native plant garden. And if you are looking for a pollinator, if that's part of your thing, the bees love this. It's a little early in the morning for bees, but they are all over it later in the day, and if I think of it, I'll get an additional picture that shows you that. But it's more of a ground cover. This is as tall as it gets, about 1.5 feet. It gets 5 or 6 feet apart, stays green all summer. Really a nice plant if this is what you're looking for. And again, the pollinators are, as a pollinator, really a nice addition this time of year in mid-October. Here's a shot later in the day of dwarf coyote bush, and hopefully you can see and maybe even hear all the bees on it. And I'll zoom in, see if we can. There are, I don't know, whether it's 50 or 100 bees on this thing right now. So a nice pollinator, especially for the fall when there's not much else out there for bees and pollinators. Just as a note, left hand side now is the John Dorley manzanita, low growing manzanita, more of a ground cover. This one is 2 or 3 years old, so still pretty small. And over to the right is a penstemon we looked at in the spring. This is the hybrid, and we're going to keep an eye on it. I don't think it's in the best spot. It gets too much shade, but we're going to keep an eye on it. It has a nice bloom, nice blue bloom rather than a pinkish for most penstemons. I think it's a cross between Heterophilus and Spectabilis, and we'll look and see how this does, how persistent it is in the bloom. That's how it does, and if it performs well, make it available in the nursery. This is Alcinaria californica Catalina, and it's really coming into its own right now. Like the other fuchsias, blooms through the summer into fall. This is starting to pick up a little bit of more moisture because of the time of year, and it is really getting into full bloom. Hummingbirds like it. It's a nice plant for them. We're seeing more hummingbirds around the garden. If we wait a little longer, it would be in full sun, but schedule is as it is. We won't get there, but you can see really a nice looker this time of year. This is a good time to talk about moisture and watering. You can see the sprinkler on the left hand side, and as I'd mentioned before, we water every 2 weeks. Water for a couple hours, and during the summer that's just enough water to keep them fresh, keep the plants fresh, reduce any weak plants from dying. We keep the same schedule until it starts raining and there's natural water available, but this time of year that because of the short days, cooler temperatures, there's more water available to the plants. So some of them will respond, like the penstemons and the fuchsias and some of the others, some of the sages, the hummingbird sage we saw earlier. So just kind of a take on that. From our perspective, it's not beneficial to water them excessively during the summer. Some will respond and get very large, and some will respond and die, unfortunately, with too much water. The bush lupin's an example of that. That just doesn't like water. So we kind of hit it in the middle, and we, like I said, keep them fresh during the summer with every 2 weeks some water, some sprinkle, and then during the fall and spring, that watering system gives them much more available moisture, like I said, and we'll get an extended bloom, extended growth without too much. So just a word on irrigation and how we do it here. And that is the video for fall. We may run into a few more things and add them, but hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed your year tours of what's going on in the native garden. There are some new species coming next year, and well, let's take one more shot at what's coming. Here's Catalina later in the day with the sun on it. You can see the blooms a little bit clearer now. Nice time of year. Well, before we publish the video for fall, here's a nice surprise. It's December, and this is a small perennial that hasn't been very noticeable up till now. It's kind of done its thing, and for the last half of December it has a nice bloom. This is 5-needle Thermophila pentachata. It's a nice color, winter color, appears to bloom with moisture, and a nice addition to a winter blooming native garden. So I thought we'd take a look at this. Nice surprise. See if I can get you a closer look. And there you go. So here's a shot, and looking forward, we've just planted a new area. We had some bushes in here that we've taken out and planted them to natives. We just planted them this week, middle of October. New species, almost all of them. So, and the goal is not only to enjoy the natives, but to give you an idea of what these species look like full grown. They are in the nursery, but it's nice to see them as they're growing. So as we look at this, well, there's 3 types of asters in front. There's woolly sunflower. There's different mountain sunflowers. There's a mountain mahogany. There's back here St. Catherine's lace. Another what do you call them? It's another buckwheat. Sometimes words just don't come as easy as they do at other times. So we'll look forward to seeing these during our spring sales, where they're in some growth behind them and a winter of growth. This is a good time. It's a great time to plant natives. We sprinkled this. We got some deep moisture. It is now on every 2 weeks. It'll get moisture like the other parts of the garden, get sprinkled like the other parts. And you can plant natives before it rains. You can wait till it rains if you don't have some way to irrigate them. But make sure you got deep moisture. Roots go towards water. Always remember that, and deep roots are better than shallow. So with that, let's close this video on this nice shot and look forward to next year. And I think there's probably 15 new species out here that we haven't had before. So we'll look forward to that. Thanks for joining this year. We hope you have a wonderful end of the year, even amid the chaos during the year 2020. The garden is a great place to spend time and be a part of this, be a part of the plant's natural cycle of flowering, dormancy. Each has their own little things, and it's fun to observe that, as well as see the hummingbirds and bees and that enjoy that as well. So thanks for joining this year. We'll look forward to seeing you at the sales. Just keep an eye on the website as to sales. We do have one in November coming up, but you may see this video after that. And thank you very much for watching the video. and we will be seeing you soon, we hope.